For me, FPV is an exhilarating experience. It is a way to experience the world in a truly unique and amazing way. I grew up watching Superman flying movies, and at night, I would have dreams that I could fly too. I can fly now, with FPV. I was hooked on FPV the first time I put on the goggles and experienced FPV drones. I knew immediately this was for me. As cheesy as it sounds, it was love at first flight. There is nothing like flying drones in FPV, doing tricks, running a line you could never hit before, and showing another person the experience and seeing the amazement on their face. My most memorable FPV flight was the first time I completed what I call the Death Star run at my house. In the Star Wars movie Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker has to fly with precision down a narrow path to launch his weapons to destroy the Death Star. At my house, I have this 200-foot section that flies behind our solar panels, then behind our vegetable garden, and then in between 4 trees and a final tree before I hit the fence. The path is very narrow and I've crashed so many times. The first time I successfully completed that run, I was screaming with excitement. I found several things challenging in FPV. First, how do you even get started? I started as a camera drone pilot, and the leap between camera drones and FPV drones seemed monumental. The build-it-yourself FPV pilots I found on YouTube were pros, and I felt overwhelmed on how to learn from and connect with others in the community. I then found that many different folks were on Discord. I eventually found several Discord server channels that were extremely helpful. The online FPV community taught me so much. I'm forever grateful and desire to give back anytime I can. Then, what FPV goggles and drones should you buy to get started? Again, I was overwhelmed. I made several poor decisions that I would change if I could go back in time. The next challenge was the fun one, learning to fly in acro mode. Wow, it is so hard, and it requires hours and hours of practice in the simulator before risking it all in real life on a freestyle drone. But the practice is so worth it. The first time you take your FPV drone to the park, a set of trees, any open area, the world is available in a way it has never been before. It took me about 4 to 5 months to get decent on an FPV drone in acro mode. It's one thing to fly in a simulator or go to a field and put a drone really high into the air and fly around with no control. It's a whole different story to control one so you can hit small gaps, fly through trees, and do acrobatics with control and precision. I've been flying for about a year now, and I'd say after 1 year, I'm comfortable to fly just about anywhere. I would absolutely recommend the beginner kits Beta FPV has created. I feel that I started backwards on the FPV journey. The pros I was watching were flying 5-inch freestyle drones, so I thought I had to as well. The first drone I flew outdoors was a 5-inch freestyle drone, and I had almost no control. It was an eye-opening experience, the power and speed of a 6S freestyle drone. Wow. If I could go back in time, I would start on cinewhoop FPV drones in level mode, flying indoors and outdoors anytime the weather permitted. It took me about 2 months to learn about cinewhoops, and my learning experience accelerated on a 1S cinewhoop I could fly indoors. The living room and the entire house became my training ground. I progressed so fast by flying every night after my family went to sleep. A few tips I have for beginners are: get on Facebook and join the Beginner to FPV community group. Get online and find the pilots you want to be like and admire. Follow them on YouTube, Facebook, and join the Discord servers they participate in. It will help enormously. Find a FPV friend to learn from and guide you. You will likely need someone to coach you and remind you that it's very hard to fly in the beginning. Last, invest in some quality goggles a great radio controller, and start with smaller drones that you can fly indoors. There is a lot less risk of hurting anything, anyone, or destroying a very expensive FPV drone. I see myself as an active participant, an evangelist, and a coach now in the FPV community. I actively participate in my local community, and I've helped multiple people get more into FPV, including one of my friends from work and my 4-year-old son, Flynt, or Fly FPV. My vision for FPV is that a lot of the technology that is currently only available from the largest FPV systems creators finds its way into other vendors' drones, giving pilots more choices and keeping the market competitive. I'm also hopeful that more and more people will find their way into the FPV hobby so it gets the attention and love it deserves, especially for younger kids. There is nothing like flying FPV, and it's such a great introduction into science, engineering, technology, and math, especially for kids. Life without FPV would be boring. Seriously, when you learn how to fly and see the world in this unique and exciting way that was never possible before, it is absolutely magical. My FPV alter ego is Focus, and my philosophy is to create and capture experiences that last forever. FPV is one of the best ways to create and capture those one-of-a-kind perspectives and experiences. Join me in FPV.